Okay, I think I'm going to start. Welcome everyone to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals, and part of what we do, along with special guests, are these office hour sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat, and we might not know all the answers, but multiple heads about a problem should help. We've had a bunch of questions submitted already, as you can see. But if there's anybody here live on the call who would like to submit any questions, feel free to flag yourself in the chat functionality, which will be monitored. Also, there's usually a bunch of other SEOs on the call. And I think one of the best things about SEO Office Hours is other people sharing their perspectives, not just the four of us. So please continue to do that. It's amazing. Like every week, with me today is Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. Morning.
Hello, good morning, and very good morning because today is our 40th episode of SEO Office Hours. So thank you very much, everyone who has joined, who has watched, and has been our special guests, and also for those that have shared a couple of posts that I put out on LinkedIn earlier this week. As Mike said, my name is Juliana Turnbull. I run a remote digital marketing consultancy business called Turn Global, and we help clients in the fintech, finance, and SaaS industry. We work in SEO, social media, and event/webinar management. And I also run a couple of events outside Search London and Search Barcelona. And we have our Search Barcelona dinner in September this month, in a few weeks' time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Hi, Simon, Sarah, Frank, John, Benjamin, Albert, Nishant, Emily, Olua, Tobiloba, Andrew, Glory, Jordan. Let us know, Idris, where you're dialing in from today. Thanks, everyone, for the messages in the chat. I'm really pleased to have on today's 40th episode two great, smart professionals in SEO. We have Sarah and Julia. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Julia is joining us from London today, and actually Julia used to come to some of the Search London events. Julia is very busy in the world of SEO. She's a freelance SEO with a huge range of experience in SEO consultancy, training, content strategy, copywriting, translation, and photography. She offers perspectives from both sides of the table because she's navigated freelance as well as in-house roles across some of the most competitive industries. She's also, outside of that, very active doing elements like Moses Whiteboard Friday. She's also contributed to Majestic's SEO in 2023 and 2024. And she's also a judge for the US Search Awards. And outside of that, she also speaks quite a few languages: German, French, Spanish, Italian, and English. 5 languages. That's pretty impressive, Julia.
Thank you. Comes with a degree in Romance languages.
Still, it's very impressive. And you can see Julia at Brighton SEO San Diego in November, and she will also be at the Women in Tech SEO Festival in Philadelphia. I will share Julia's LinkedIn profile here in the chat. And I was very impressed as well to see that she is an award-winning blogger for her travel blogger, Charlie on the Move. She won that earlier this year. Can I share those details that you sent me?
Of course.
So I'll share the very good travel blog, and I'll share that here, Charlie on the Move. And I'll share kind of a couple of what you also won earlier this year. So it's innovation in business. I'll just share that there. Thank you very much to Sarah for joining us today. Sarah is the digital marketing director at Dragon Metrics, and she's also a co-founder of Neurodivergence in SEO. She, as well as Julia, is very busy. She actually started her career as a military-trained translator, and then she moved into digital marketing. And she's also now pursuing a BA in psychology and sociology at Dublin City University. Extremely busy indeed. My goodness, that's a lot. But so you're putting that into practice as well. And also on top of that, you've been recognized with many different awards, like you were a finalist at the European Search Awards, the Irish Content Marketing Awards, and you won silver at the Irish National Startup Awards. So impressive indeed. And of course, she has spoken at many events like Brighton SEO and the Zagreb SEO Summit. She's also been on podcasts like Search with Candor and the SEO Rant. She will be at International Search Summit, November 14th, speaking there, and at Brighton SEO San Diego, which is November 19th and 20th. And as I mentioned, she is the co-founder of Neurodivergence in SEO. And she's dedicated to creating a supportive community for neurodivergence in SEO to connect, learn, and thrive. And I will share both of those links, Sarah's LinkedIn profile and neurodivergence in SEO, in the chat here. Thank you very much, Sarah. Wow, you are so busy. How do you have time to do everything?
I don't know. I don't sleep. It's probably why I look exhausted all the time.
So I've shared the link for, so if anybody would like to check it out, please feel free. And we've had a few more people join us today. Hello, Natalia, Monse, David, Uzair, Jack, welcome, and Andrew. So without further ado, I'm going to pass back to Mike because we've got loads of questions today on our 40th anniversary.
Great. Yes, that's only 40 episodes, not 40 years, by the way.
Of course, episode anniversary.
Yes. So this question came in just after the last SEO office hours, and it's not relevant, but parts are. So we'll just go with it and see how it goes. So this person asked, has Google made any changes to the algorithm in the last few days? I can see our organic has fallen off a cliff since last Tuesday, but don't know if people are just away on holiday. I tried to find rankings in Google Search Console, but didn't find it. But this overall week versus last week is down, and it's affected our orders. They are way down. Where in Google Search Console do I find this information? So obviously the core update that had been rolling out for the last 19 days finished, I think it was on Tuesday. And we have another relevant question. So before I hand that one over, there was another question about what do you do when a core update finishes rolling out? So two questions there. One about how do you find out about it in Google Search Console, and the other is what do you actually do when one has finished rolling out? Who would like to kick off? Joe, what about you?
I'm so glad I do improv acting. That makes me ready for these things. I suppose if it's finished rolling out, then yes, perhaps you have been affected. So he said, I tried to find rankings in Google Search Console, but didn't find it. But this overall week versus last week is down. So it's a bit not clear about if they've tried to find rankings. So did they actually change or not the rankings? I would also look and see in Google Search Console, when you go into it, you can actually see the performance straight away. You can actually change the number of months or weeks that you're looking at within there. And I would actually look as well to click on rankings and click on click-through rate, and then you can see how that changes the graph in time. I would also look to see if you're using a separate tool as well to see if there's any been ranking change. If you're using these different SaaS tools, if you have a project, you can see if they've changed or not. And also I'd look as well at your Google Analytics. Maybe it says talked about it's affected our orders.
I think you've covered the first question, which was basically around how do they find out about this information. So if they go into Google Search Console, there's, like you said, you see the performance. If you click in a few clicks, you'll get a bit more detail. And what you can basically look via queries, but also by pages. I think it isn't selected by default, but if you click average position, you'll be able to see positions. Clicks should be, I think that is by default. So you tend to see impressions and clicks by pages or queries, whatever you want to look at. I think the most helpful part there is you can see click difference. And if you do a comparison from the period that you're worried about versus the period before, you should be able to identify whether it's just one particular page, if it's a range of pages, and so on. If you have any other webmaster tools, you could do a comparison so you'll know if it's to do with the update or if it's just to do with, you mentioned that it could just be the school holidays. So that could be a way.
You just also said about another Google Search Console. So this is why it's also really important to make sure that you do have Bing as well, set up Bing Webmaster Tool so you can see that. And it also said, back to the organic has fallen off a cliff, I would also have a look at some of the pages. Maybe some other pages are ranking higher than others, and also just check your orders too. Maybe you're having a lot of orders via organic search, or maybe you're also getting a lot of referrals as well. Like you mentioned about the school holidays, sometimes it can be seasonality as well. But I would also just say, please don't panic about what's happened. It could be because of the update, but it could just because of seasonality as well.
Something that I see quite a lot with e-commerce stores as well is if you take a look, for example, at historic SERPs. So if you have a SEO tool, rather than just using Search Console, you can get a lot more data around it. And sometimes taking a look at the SERPs and comparing them, say, last week, this week, maybe a month ago, this week, could be the fact that you have a competitor who's rolled out a new strategy or some of their pages are getting traction. And with e-commerce, quite often, for example, a couple of new websites have gone in and pushed a lot of people down. So there's so many different reasons. And I think if you, instead of looking in Google Search Console specifically, if you use a tool that does lots of different things, you're going to find it a lot easier to say, look at analytics, compare different periods, take a look at your rankings, take a look at competitors, and just get an overall idea of your performance and what's going on, because it could be Google, there could be another story to it. Maybe, I don't know, something has gone wrong. Maybe if you're using, for example, like Shopify or another different solution, sometimes they mess up different. So look, basically just lots of diagnosis, and you should be okay, but don't panic.
That's great. Thank you. Very good to look at the competitors as well. What are they doing?
Just on that, actually, because I've been doing a lot of analysis since I think it was Tuesday. And actually, what you said then, just looking at the search results to see what's happened is quite interesting. So, for example, there are some industries where, for instance, product grids, a few of them where they were sitting at, say, positions 8 and 9 have gone up the rankings, and that can impact what position one looks like, whether it's above or below, and also whether there were discussions in forums before or there are questions or anything like that in the search results. And often you don't get that information solely from Google Search Console. So that's really interesting. Julia, do you have anything to add? What would you do? What if a Google update had just finished rolling out? What do you do first?
Monitor, just see what happens with your traffic, and whatever, actually confirm that it is related to this algorithm update, especially if one tool tells you your revenue is down, another tool tells you also rankings and traffic are a bit fluctuating at the moment. First, confirm that they're actually related, because there might be different reasons for both things. And then Google Search Console is usually the first place where I look to see what has actually happened. Mike mentioned the dates comparison. That's where I go in. And that's one thing where people often get confused if you're looking at an individual page or an individual keywords, the average ranking. So for this, we always need to look at page and keyword in combination. So you can filter in Search Console to see only the data for one specific page. You could even drill down to one specific country and then look at what are the queries that this page is ranking for, and then compare the rankings before and after, because the number of the average ranking can get a bit funny if you're looking at too big of a data set, and you might draw the wrong conclusions.
I absolutely love that point, because I find that when you're dealing with e-commerce stores specifically, you can have some products that are really good and some products that are doing really badly. And if you're looking at average, it doesn't give you a very good picture of what your whole site is doing and what different segments are doing. Yeah, love that you mentioned that. So looking at individual pages is so much better than just looking at an average.
I was going to say there's lots of comments in the chat. So thank you everyone for always adding in your 2 cents. Simon's talking about first check what changes have made to your site by anyone, including the server. So that's a good point. We didn't mention that. Run a quick tech audit, and then you can worry about the Google core update or the core changes. Natalia was talking about check seasonality, compare the Google Trends for the main queries with Search Console data. That's a very good point, and that ties back to that seasonality, because you could have been a place where you don't have that interest anymore. Maybe back to school supplies, for example. People have already probably bought that. And she mentioned that you will see if the interest has actually shifted, or maybe it just is your traffic. Lee's talking about see what the competitors are doing, see if they've been affected or not. So thanks everyone for that. But yeah, really, with any sort of updates, it's really important to not panic and have a plan or strategy in place. And to make sure that if you're dealing with people that don't know much about SEO, or maybe you're the only person in the company that is doing the SEO, make sure that you have these sort of updates with them. Oh, listen, we've had an update and we haven't seen any changes yet, or we have, and this is our next step. If you are communicating with other people, don't just say, oh, we have an update. Follow up with, okay, these are our steps and what we'd like to do, and how you want others also to get involved. I think when we have these types of updates, it's always a great way to then make sure that you can talk more about SEO if you're not already doing so in your company, and try and get a bit more buy-in as well, get some allies.
And I think what Waleed said as well about just looking at competitors and seeing who has benefited if you feel like you've been impacted, and try and work out maybe why those pages or why those websites have improved over yours, and see if there's anything you can learn. I think we've got a kind of similar question, which is, how might we recover from the core update? It has negatively affected the rankings of both our UK-based luxury goods, leading to reduced traffic. This is particularly challenging in a market saturated with visually similar websites from well-established brands, including the ones that have increased in rankings. Okay, so very similar looking websites, maybe looking size, content, that sort of stuff, and they've seen a drop, whereas some of the competitors haven't. How might you recover? So Joe, you just started on thinking about taking a step back and thinking about the overall kind of strategy of the site.
Yeah, because maybe you've not had as much resources, or maybe you've been focusing perhaps just on the tech SEO of the site, and you haven't had enough resource to do the content. Maybe you haven't done any digital PR. If you found that your site has been affected, it might be a time to revisit the strategy. Maybe you might want to create some assets on your site and then do some digital PR. If you found that other companies or competitors are actually seeing their rankings increase, see what are they doing. Is it quite obvious that they're doing some digital PR? Do they have a new product out? Find out what they're doing and try and work out the gaps. Obviously, you don't want to always copy your competitor, but I think the main thing with these sort of updates is it gives you an opportunity to sit back and then reflect, and then perhaps refresh your strategy for what's maybe not been working. So try and plan that out. You still got another 4 months of 2024.
Great. Great, Sarah.
Yeah, I like that. I think one thing that I always suggest as well, when people see that the competitors are going up but they're going down, take a step back and take a look at what the competitors are doing and what any changes that they've been doing lately. So you could find that, for example, your competitor has more content than you. You could find that their technical SEO is a lot better than you. As Joe said, that they've been doing PR, so they might have better links than you. Maybe you're doing something that's maybe a little bit dodgy that Google doesn't like, that Google is clamping down on. So take a look at your strategy, what people are doing, and especially if you're using agencies and stuff, make sure that they're doing that, because sometimes you can find that, say, some things have happened to your website. Maybe it's a developer's, maybe people have been making changes to the website that aren't beneficial to SEO. So you may have to go and deep dive and find out where these issues are. But take a look at your competitors, don't copy them, of course, but find out where they're doing well, and you can benefit from looking into that area.
Yeah, adding onto that, one thing that I realized with one of my clients, I started working with them a few months ago when they noticed traffic is gradually declining, and they were also now hit by the August algorithm update. But all that we're now doing after the audit were things we knew weren't right on this website before. We just haven't had time yet to fix it. Also, there are problems with content duplication, a lot of keyword cannibalization. Content isn't properly structured. So there's one page, but it talks about 5 different things where it should be different pages and all these things. So really go back, and maybe there are things that have been recommended to you before from an SEO professional that you just haven't had time to implement. And then especially when you're looking at competitors, and I'm sure in a highly saturated market, you know very well who they are and how they're doing. Don't try and take shortcuts. Like Sarah already hinted at it. So if you see, oh, there's a really big competitor, they have a massive budget, they're producing a lot more content than we do. So let's just quickly, as an example, try and use AI and match their content velocity and so on. Don't do this. Don't try to take shortcuts. The same with backlinks. If you say, oh, my competitors, they have so many more backlinks, so many more referring domains, let's just buy a bunch of links from this shady person on the other side of the world. Just don't. Anything you do that seems like a quick solution, a quick fix or shortcut will just come back to you later in the next Google algorithm update, probably.
And be realistic as well. Don't think that you're going to recover in a month by, like you said, maybe buying a load of backlinks or doing something. And especially in today's market, a lot of people have reduced their SEO budgets and reduced their SEO teams. So maybe think that those reductions may impact things as well.
Amazing. Joe, do you have anything to add?
We just have some comments in the chat I'd like to share, unless you want to give your opinion first, Mike.
Yeah, sure. So we often get inquiries when a core update ends or during the process, and because we have a couple of relevant blog posts, that's why. And when I look at websites that inquire, often I find that they haven't really done very much to their site in a long time. And so when they're annoyed or confused as to why their rankings have changed, and then when I compare them to others, I think they want me to rip apart these other websites. But actually, I often find these really cool features or interesting content or just things that they're doing that's different and deserves to rank better. So my advice is always, okay, how do we make your website better? How do we evolve it? And so on. And I heard a quote this morning. I hope this is all right and not too far off. But I was listening to the radio this morning, Virgin Radio on the way in, and they tend to be quite positive and so on. And one of the things that they were saying is who you are today is who you were 6 months ago. And what you're doing now is who you're going to be in 6 months. And I totally feel like that is similar with websites and so on, that you should be always like you are offline, evolving your business and so on. And so that's what we should be focusing on, not these kind of quick fixes and so on, but actually, how do we evolve the website and business? And chances are we're not going to see the benefit until 6 months' time, a year's time. And then in 6 months, how do we improve that so we're even better in the future? Joe, please save me.
That was really good. And the one about the 6 months, I think it goes back to a few weeks ago. I don't know if it was Ahmed that talked about the gym, that if you want to get fit, it's not going to take, just going to get your chocolate abs, chocolate board abs in a minute, in a week after doing the gym. No, it's like a 6 month thing. So we have some.
Also, if you had a great body however long ago and you haven't been working out for a while, chances are you're going to lose those muscles and so on. So it is definitely something you have to keep working on and have to keep evolving, because you're competing against hundreds, if not thousands, of websites for the same queries and so on. And if you stay still, of course you're going to lose out.
Yeah, if you stay still, actually, in this industry, you're actually going backwards because you're not advancing, because the industry changes so quickly. We have a few comments from everyone. Thanks again for interacting with our questions. Ikra is talking about focus on the quality of the content, how relevant it is, and the user experience as well. Monsi was saying that sometimes, in her experience, it's sometimes a less solid foundation. So that's why you need to have those brilliant basics, a good foundation, good tech foundation for your website, because otherwise that could be potentially the root cause of the issue. Also suggesting to be patient. Simon, always a little bit of a joker there. Thank you, Simon, saying the only quick fix is PPC, but the money is spent better doing organic SEO. Of course it is. Yes, put those budgets there. That's what we want. And Sarah said, proper preparation avoids poor performance. That's a very good one, Sarah. Thank you for that. And yeah, everyone's loving your quotes actually. On Sarah, Monse, good old Virgin Radio giving some deep, inspiring quotes, Sarah
Very
said.
deep.
So that's a good one. Oh, and
I think it was
one.
aimed more at people that want to do marathons and stuff like that. But as I was listening this morning, I thought, oh, I think we had a relevant question. Yeah.
We are doing marathons. We're doing lots of things at the same time. You've heard Sarah and Julia's bio, very busy. I also wanted to say welcome to everyone that's joining us watching the recording. If you are enjoying the show and you want to come on as an attendee, as Julia or Sarah, being our special guest, or as an audience member, please sign up to Good Signals. It's goodsignals.com/SEO-office-hours. And I will share the link in the chat, and it's also in the transcript.
Great. Okay, next question. Pop-ups. Are they cool to use, or do they mess with your site's SEO? Anybody here using pop-ups on their websites or client websites? No? Okay.
No.
So actually, we have pop-ups on our website, but only for relevant things. So if you're, for instance, on one of our SEO pages, we have a client testimonial that's recent that will pop up and things like that. And we do testing, so we make sure that when we roll out anything, does it impact our rankings, but also does it impact things like conversion rates and stuff like that? Simon's just said Pop-Tarts. Yeah,
I love Pop-Tarts.
There are some websites that you land on there and you get about 10 different pop-ups as soon as you land. And I don't think that's a very good user experience. Hopefully ours enhances it. Sarah, do you have any thoughts on using pop-ups?
I absolutely hate them. They're so annoying. I think I'm going to go psychology nerd now. But from that perspective, when you only have a couple of seconds to make a first impression when somebody comes onto your website, and if you start blasting them with massive pop-ups, annoying for user experience. And honestly, people are not going to take the actions that you want because you've annoyed them. And psychologically, if you make a bad first impression on someone, it's going to take an awful lot of work to get rid of that first impression, and people will hate your brand forever, basically, unless you do something really nice for them to make them unhate you. But yeah, don't do it. I would not recommend it whatsoever.
Yeah, something that seems quite popular at the moment is a spinning wheel that I just find so annoying when you're on a blog or something like that, and it's win this or win that, and you always win, but it's $10 off whatever you're buying or something like that.
Like from an inclusivity perspective as well, the spinning wheel actually for people who have like chronic migraines or people with epilepsy or neurodivergent people, that can actually be quite damaging because I suffer from chronic migraines. I'm neurodivergent, and that actually makes me feel physically sick. So I will leave any website because of that. So if you're trying to be inclusive and follow accessible website design, don't do that.
That's great advice. Julia, do you have any thoughts on pop-ups? Do you have any running on any of your clients' websites? And does that impact SEO or user experience?
I'm totally with Sarah. From a user perspective, myself, as somebody who also uses the internet, I find them really annoying. And I find it even more annoying when the little X is hidden, when you have to search the whole screen. Where can I actually click this pop-up away? Some of my clients use them against my advice, but well, everybody also needs to find ways to convert users and make money. So at some point with SEO, you also have to find a bit of a balance between those two. And from a technical perspective, if they don't slow your site down, if they don't cause your core web vitals to shake up, literally shake up, I've not seen any issues there with the pop-ups that my clients have implemented on their website. But yeah, UX, I would advise against it.
Great. Joe, do you have any thoughts?
No, there's a lot of comments in the chat, so I'll share those first. I love a pop-up with no easy way to close. It covers the whole screen. Yes, that's just really annoying. You will get people leaving your site. Bear was talking about that they mess up with UX as well. Simon did say if it's the right place, right time, it could be useful. The pop-up could work, but he's suggesting it's probably better to have a call to action in the content at the right place. So maybe at the end of the content or after this, maybe the paragraph as well. You could use a banner or graphics that are incorporated into the page design, Sarah's saying. For me, I think that it's okay if you want to have a lead magnet, but think about the user experience. If you're combating, trying to push this through, or you're fighting against a pop-up, why not get a feedback and have two groups about looking at your site with a pop-up and one without, and get their feedback there? Because without data, you're just another person with an opinion.
Right. I am a fan of pop-ups, actually. I come from not just an SEO background, but CRO background as well. And I think, like Simon was saying, right place, right time. Also, I think when you talk about pop-ups, you assume it's as soon as somebody lands on the page that it appears. But depending on the software you're using, you can have rules set that if people have engaged a certain amount with your website, you then show it at that point. And also, pop-ups don't need to be overwhelming. They don't need to take up the whole page like we were talking about. It could be simply just a small pop-up on the screen on certain pages, if you think it's really relevant. And with all of these tools, or at least most of them, you can A/B test things. So I would suggest seeing if it's about conversions or if it's about trying to get people to do something or spend more time on the site. You can usually track that stuff. So I'm not totally against them, but I am against, you go on some publishers' websites and it's just so full on. And like Sarah was saying, it can just be horrible. Great. Should we move on to the next question?
Yes, let's move. Question 5. We are rolling through them and we're halfway through.
Boom, look at us go. Okay, this is a meaty one. We furnish holiday homes with beautiful interiors. While we're delighted to rank for searches like living room sofas, we're puzzled by our poor performance for similar terms such as living room settees. This inconsistency affects other product lines as well. We aim to reach a wider audience by also targeting related terms like couches, lounge, and sitting room. However, simply interchanging these words on our existing pages feels clumsy. Could creating dedicated landing pages for specific phrases like holiday home sofas or lounge seating for holiday rentals be a solution? We're open to exploring other approaches as well. We had a kind of similar question a few weeks ago around location pages and portable loos, but let's stick to nice, lovely images, shall we, this week? Sarah, do you have any thoughts on this one?
I think it's tough to make a decision without seeing the actual website and the structure of it, because there could be reasons why they're ranking for one of the terms and not the other terms. Because, for example, maybe the URL has sofa rather than settee, and I wouldn't recommend changing the URLs for settee, for example, and sorting out redirects and stuff like that. As maybe the content has more stuff in it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's more links to sofa stuff, competition as well. Maybe there's more competition for sofa rather than settees. Maybe it's more relevant to stuff. It's a tough one without being able to dive into it a little bit more and see what's going on. But I definitely wouldn't recommend taking drastic action and swapping it up, doing stuff. Landing page for sofas and settees, I don't know, because I think then you'll get duplicate content, because like sofas and settees are basically the same thing. So I wouldn't really recommend do it. So I personally think that there's probably going to be more traffic coming from sofas rather than settees, but do what the data says and be happy with having sofas, and maybe settees will come in time when you've got more authority or stuff like that.
I had a quick look at this because as a non-native English speaker, my first question was, okay, what's actually the difference between a sofa and a settee? And I had not heard of a settee before the last season of Bridgerton. I have to admit, what I'm watching here on Netflix. It's really good to improve your English. And I had a quick look at what does come up in Google search results for both of those terms. And I agree with Sarah, it does not make sense to create two different landing pages because they're essentially the same thing. It is more of a regional difference, who's using which word, and maybe also a bit of an age difference could also play in there. Who's searching for what, but between sofa and settee, I would definitely target both keywords on the same landing page. And what I've seen whilst I was scrolling through the SERPs in the people also ask section and so on, they're actually coming up quite a few questions around that. What is the difference? And then somebody even asks, okay, what's the difference between sofa, settee, and couch? So I see also some really nice opportunities here to create some blog content around that. And then you could improve your internal links to this product landing page and then have internal links. Some of them have an anchor sofa, some of them have the anchor text settee. And that should already help getting that one page up for both search terms.
That's a very good point. And actually, Sarah said that you could do a funny post about the difference between a sofa and a settee. And she also said it could be a demographic thing. Like settee is more of a northern term and sofa is more used throughout the UK. And I think if I remember, like some of my family up north, they would say settee. But yeah, you can use settee, couch, and sofa. And I think the main thing is they're like interchangeable. So I wouldn't get too hung up on, oh, I'm not ranking so well for settee. We have another comment as well. Natalia's talking about have a paragraph of content explaining the difference as well. Nice suggestion from Sarah. Do some research around the UK, see where the search term is more common. I did a quick look using a SaaS platform just to look at the search volume in living room sofas. Has a much higher search volume than living room settees. And living room, some people call it a lounge as well, or some people call it salon. So you could use all of that within the term. So I was also talking about update your existing pages with some of those keywords and address different related terms. And Sarah's also saying, it's also some people call it a drawing room. I think when you have like huge house, you might have a drawing room, and then you have the living room, and then the day room, and then it would be great to have so many rooms in your house.
But that explains why it's in the north.
A drawing room.
That explains why it's more common in the north, because that's probably the only region where you can still afford a house like that, right?
In Ireland as well, we have the good room. So the good room is basically like a dining room, but it's all made up just in case a priest comes around. So you have all of your ready. Those are older people who still actually do have their good room.
I think in my grandma used to call it the front room, because then it was the only place in the whole house that had heating. Sarah's talking about sunroom. She could go on. Yes, you could. Conservatory as well. There's that one as well. Breakfast room Sarah's talking about. Wow, I would love to have a house with all these rooms. It would be amazing.
I know, I was just thinking, is there a name for living room, dining room, and kitchen all in one? It's not quite.
It's called the new apartment, or it's called a studio apartment. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's called living in London.
American kitchen, no.
I would like to have a pool room, a house with a separate pool table and some chill out, some lazy boy, lazy girl chairs. Anyways.
Do you know what? One thing I was thinking, just listening to everybody's responses and actually seeing the chat as well, is that this feels like there's something here in terms of link building in digital PR, because it sort of feels like it has that kind of pub factor or conversation sort of factor where people want to talk about it and joke about it and so on. And I think you could definitely do something where you get out onto the streets in different cities and record people's responses to what they call these things, and maybe do some surveys and things like that. Anything that usually creates some sort of talking point is usually fantastic for doing things like digital PR. I would definitely do that. And I really liked, if you feel like changing the content on the page is clumsy, as you've said, I feel like internal links could be an option here, and also maybe blog posts and things like that as well, pointing back to those pages just to make it ultra clear. And if it doesn't look too clumsy, and things like your title tags and things like that as well, just to make it clear, because I'm guessing each of them have the sofa, couch and settee page is all one. So maybe that could be a good place for it.
One other idea that I had as well is maybe go for specific holiday home related pages and just maybe do a blog post, like you said, and talk about holiday home settees, holiday home sofas, and just go through and talk about that. Because if you're targeting just living room settees, living room sofas, it's going to be less relevant than if you target something specifically for your business. I don't know if there is a difference between holiday home sofas and normal home sofas, but maybe there are some little things that you need to keep in mind and stuff like that. So having explanations could be a good idea as well.
That's a good idea for that one. Maybe the holiday home sofa would be something that someone's looking at. It's a bit cheaper. So in some countries, IKEA tends to be quite an economical way to furnish a holiday home if you're lucky to have that. But yeah, you probably wouldn't want to go to somewhere like an expensive Selfridges or this John Lewis if you're having a holiday home. So I think it's a great idea, Sarah.
Right.
Or how to keep your sofas clean if it's a holiday home.
Low maintenance sofa.
Look at that. You come here with one specific question, you end up with a content strategy, link building strategy, a lot. Amazing. I forgot it was Julia that I spoke to this morning about sofas, settees and couches, not yourself. So, okay, the next question. I've just tried to access our blog. I've only ever been sent specific pages to review. I take it's not a problem SEO wise that you have to go through the footer to get to the blog. I actually know this person. They're a director of a company, so their team send them specific blog posts to look at and review, and he's never actually used the site in that way to go and find blog posts. Is this a problem SEO wise that you can only access their blog via the footer? Who would like to kick off? Julia, go for it.
From an SEO perspective, you really want people to find your blog posts via a search in a search engine. You don't really expect them to go to your website to find your blog. And the important thing here is that the blog is linked to top navigation, footer navigation. For me, in that instance, doesn't make that big of a difference as long as there is a link so that the crawlers can find the blog. And then, of course, making sure there's an internal linking structure so that no blog posts are orphaned. I would be really worried if the blog was not linked to at all, and there were just random links in content somewhere to specific blog posts, because that would probably mean that 80% of your blog would be orphaned and not indexed and never looked at by any person or machine. But I wouldn't really worry so much, because I think, and again, there comes in what Joe said earlier, look at the data that you have. We could test that. Do more people visit your blog if you have it in the top navigation or in the footer? But from my experience, I don't think anybody who wants to find specific blog posts that you have written is going to your homepage to find a link to the blog to then search through all blog posts to find that particular blog.
Yeah, I think you just need to be careful about the internal linking and the depth, because as part of my job, I actually do support for some of our customers. And one thing that I see all the time is they're like, why can the Dragometrics crawler, when they're doing a technical crawl for like a site audit or something like that, why doesn't it find certain pages on my site? And we're like, the links aren't there for our crawler to go through and find them. And our crawler works exactly the same way as Google does. And a lot of people don't realize that half of their pages are orphaned, or just that the crawler can't find it because there's not enough links to it. So just be very careful. And it depends what industry you're in. Some people actually like going and reading blogs from certain websites. So if you find that people are going directly, you can look at this through analytics or something, of people going to your homepage to go to your blog, maybe add it up the top because it will be better for user experience. But if people are just landing on your blog from SEO, like Julia said, then I think in the footer it will be fine.
Great. Joe, do you have anything to add?
If you have a blog that you're proud of, why wouldn't you want to put it on the header and the footer? There you go. You cover both bases. We have a couple of comments in the chat. Simon said it's not an issue SEO-wise. It's probably not the main focus on the site, so don't worry. The blog's there to bring organic traffic in. The blog is there to bring in the organic traffic and to cross-sell your products or services. Monty is saying, why not place on the top of the menu if you think it might be an issue to not? Jordan saying that he would monitor the performance of your blog section using Google Search Console. And as Julia said, ensure there's no orphan pages. Having in the footer would result in it being internally linked across the site anyway. Your footer appears on most pages. We also have a couple of comments about internal linking. Internal linking to and from your product page is very important. So you could do that also with the blog. And Monty said that, and Imama is mentioning that as well. But I would just say, just don't think about the SEO. Just if you want to get more people to your blog and you're proud of it, put it in the header. Make it easy to access. Not everyone's going to scroll down.
Amazing. I don't think I have anything to add. Let's jump straight on to the next question.
Question 7. We are rushing through them,
Wow.
Mike.
Okay. How often should we be updating title tags? How often are you guys updating your title tags? Is it
whenever I make a significant change to that particular page? Because only updating the title tag without looking at the rest of the content that you have on that page doesn't make much sense, because you might be adding a keyword to the title tag, but then the content on the page doesn't actually respond to the intent behind the keyword. So I would not go in and just update title tags or meta descriptions. Always look at the whole page and then do it holistically. So look at the content on that occasion, also look at, are your images optimized on that page, all the metadata, all these things, and everything else that might be broken.
I'll be honest, we've recently redone part of the website, the product tour area of the Dragometrics website, and I went through and changed the title tags, but I'm not going to be going through and changing them again soon, just because of time and resources. There are more important SEO things that I can be doing than changing the title tags. And as Julia said, if the page content changes dramatically, of course update it so that it's relevant, but if not, I would just say strategize. This may be completely irrelevant, but again, something that I see in my job working for an SEO tool is that lots of people see the recommendations and are like, oh my gosh, I need to change my title tag, or oh my gosh, my title tag is wrong. When you get instructions from SEO tools, you don't need to do all of them. You need to prioritize what are the most important ones. And most importantly, you need to use your brain and decide what's going to have the biggest impact on SEO and ROI and stuff like that. And most of the time, focusing on things like titles and meta descriptions, lots of people do it. Lots of people spend too much time on them, but they're not going to make a big difference.
Very well said, Sarah and Julia. I think also we've got some great comments in the chat here. Sarah's actually said it's the wrong question to ask. It's not about how regularly, but what is the reason? Have you done some changes? Are you wanting to run a test on these title tags to see if you can increase CTR? Think about the bigger picture and the whole strategy. Mama was talking about if you make significant changes to a page content, like we said, update the title tag to reflect the new information. Actually, Jordan has given us a stat here. According to Zippy, 61% of title tags displayed in the search are rewritten by Google. So he would suggest to only rewrite the tags that are having very low click-through rate, but receiving potentially a high number of impressions. That's a good idea. It indicates that your page is being indexed, but perhaps not answering the targeted query. Some good tips there as well.
I was going to say, and I completely agree with that. I'm doing a big research project that I can't talk about just yet, but it will be revealed soon. And part of that, something that I am seeing, is that Google is very random with what bits of the title and meta description it will rewrite, which ones it won't rewrite. And even though when you look at the metadata and you think you have a really good title, why is Google doing that? Or when there's a bit of a pants title and Google doesn't rewrite it, I would take it with a pinch of salt. That's that.
And what I would suggest to not do is rewrite title text or meta descriptions, because some kind of tool is telling you that they have a pixel too many.
Oh God, I work for an SEO tool and I will tell you don't do that.
Yeah. So if a tool is telling you that there is a problem with the title tag or the meta description, look at the page and identify, okay, what actually is the problem here, if there is any, but don't blindly go in and rewrite them all.
Exactly, because in the tools as well, like the pixel length changes of what they show and what they don't show, and sometimes the tools do different things. So some will say it's too long, some will say it's too short, and then Google will just go and change it and chop it up anyway. As I said, focus on the important things. Don't do what an SEO tool tells you to do just because it says so.
Also, in different devices, that there is actually no limit anymore, because on a desktop you can see a really long title tag or meta description. On a mobile it will be shortened because you just have a smaller screen. So with all the different devices being out there, and it's always interesting because I have a smaller laptop, the Travel Lite, and it has the screen size of a tablet, because tablet size always gets ignored when somebody analyzes something. They all look at desktop or mobile. And then I look at it and say, oh, wait a second, something's completely broken here. It does not look nice on my device. So yeah, also keep these things in mind, that there is no actual limit anymore because every screen is a different size.
Thank you for your comments. We also had just one new comment in the chat, actually. Simon saying, oh, I think this might be a bit of a joke, Simon. He's saying, I would suggest you do it every year because it'll be 2025 soon. But that led to another comment by John saying if you're writing something like best blog posts, so best blog post for 2025. But I would say if you're doing holiday destinations or travel tips or best places to visit, you could actually do that. So best family holidays in Euro 2025, or best restaurants in Barcelona to visit for brunch in 2025. You can do that. I think we've provided quite a lot of answers this one, and we've only got 3 minutes left, Mike.
Yeah, I know. I don't think that was a joke from Simon, because I totally agree with that. I think sometimes people forget the user experience starts actually on the search results and not in your website. And I literally gave that feedback to a client the other day, where I had been watching a load of user sessions on their website, and I noticed that it was for a holiday company, and on their destination page, you can select when you want to go, and lots of people were selecting for 2025 and 2026, but actually their title tags specifically say holidays for 2024. And I was just thinking that when people are searching for their holidays and they see Budapest holiday, the best Budapest holidays for 2024, and in their head they're going in 2025 or 2026, you're not satisfying that intent, and data can't tell you that. That's a case of watching users and so on. But I think that the whole thing with dates and so on, that's really important to review those title tags, because the experience does start off the site. Julia, you look like you want to say something. Go for it.
Yeah, because again, with this, I would still recommend to also look at the rest of the content on the page. Are the recommendations you made last year for what is the best still the same for this year and for next year, or do you need to make changes there? And with, I guess, holiday destination places where it is hot in January don't generally change. But there might be other things for your industry where you really want to review that list every year and check that your recommendations are still accurate.
Well, like in their keyword strategies, like actually decide, oh, I want to write something for 2021, even though it's 2024, because the tool tells them that there's still search volume for it. And I'm just like, no, don't do that. Dragon metrics, the one good thing I'm quite happy about is that we clean the database quite often, so we get rid of those search volumes. So even though a few people search for them like irrelevant, so we take them out and put in use space for more relevant stuff. But again, just because an SEO tool says there's data for it doesn't mean that you should write about stuff from 1990s or whatever.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. We've only got a minute left, and we have a regular question, which we always ask and finish on. What are you most excited about in terms of SEO at the moment? Julia, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO?
I'm actually really excited about all the things that are coming now with AI and so on. And I'm mostly excited about all those websites that will realize how much damage they've done over the past year using AI to write their content and then going through, and I love a good jigsaw puzzle and rewriting that with a human tone of voice.
Oh, I can't wait for the trashy websites to be punished. I'm so mean, but I'm going to be so happy when that happens. And I think as well, SEO now, it's not just a case of adding some keywords and ranking. We're really being pushed to be all-round digital marketers rather than just SEOs. And psychology does have something to do with SEO. So learn psychology, and it would be good, because lots of people dismiss it when, even though we need to be thinking about your user experience, revenue optimization, PR, all of those different things.
Amazing. Jo, very quickly, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO?
Events, International Search Summit Barcelona. You can also see Sarah there, and I've just shared a code to give you 10% off. It is the best international search event, and of course, it is in the beautiful Barcelona weather. It's not very bad in November, which is great.
Thank you so much to everybody for joining. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to the people that joined us live. Thank you to those watching on YouTube afterwards. Thank you to those who submitted questions. Jo, thank you for co-hosting. Thank you. And I hope you have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you this time next week.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our special guests for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.